Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to a Celtic World, the Tactical Review, the show that takes a deep dive look at the weekend match that Celtic plays. We obviously had league semi-cup action, Celtic versus Rangers, scoreline full-time 1 each, and Celtic running out victors in extra time 3-1. Joining me, as always, is Paul Massey as we look at that. But before we get into that, big weekend for both of us. We're both in Melbourne to see Oasis. Paul, some might say it was a big weekend. We've got a few of those puns, by the way, so brace yourselves. Electric weekend, mate. I saw them on Friday night. You saw them on Saturday night. I got Drew the Kangaroo. You got Gus the Octopus, I think it was.
Gus the Octopus, yeah.
Yep. Great show at Marvel Stadium, enclosed venue in Melbourne. The city was buzzing. There was heaps of stuff on. There was cricket. There was horse racing. Apparently, Rita Ora and Ricky Martin was also playing at the same time as Oasis. Who knew? So it was
Rob Thomas as well, I think.
Well, it's a lot going on. So take your pick. We were there to see Oasis. So I got back yesterday and then jumped on Axom's match day coverage, which you may have saw me on. So it was about 1 o'clock in the morning by the time we were finished with that. And here we are, here I am, less than 24 hours later, discussing it all over again. So thank God we won. That much is for certain. Paul, Oasis is obviously brilliant. It goes without saying that it was a fantastic show, and really, really fortunate to be able to go over there and see them. And obviously back to work today. And Paul, you got back in late this afternoon, so probably a bigger weekend than me. But yeah, I'd take it away.
Yeah, we both done a bit of moonlighting this weekend. I did a little bit for Hamish. On Friday, we recorded it. I think it went out on Saturday. Preview of the match, which we held in the Melbourne number 1 Celtic Supporters Club, the Turf Bar in the city. And I was back there in the very early hours of the morning to watch the game. 1 a.m. kickoff in Melbourne, which was fun and games. It was sort of inevitable that it would go to at least extra time. With that, I think the game and the festivities wrapped up sometime after 4 a.m. locally, and I was on my way to the airport at 7 a.m. So I managed to squeeze a couple hours kip in. But yeah, I am therefore pretty tired now. We're going out 8 p.m. our time. Body clock thinks it's more like 11 p.m. All over the place, absolutely all over the place. But yeah, fantastic result in the end, which is really all that matters. And yeah, brilliant weekend. Oasis were fantastic again. And yeah, managed to catch up with some family and some mates. Not your good self, obviously. We see each other back here. We didn't see each other over there. But yeah, really, really good weekend. Probably took me most of the week to recover. But the main thing was the hoops got it done in the end.
Too much cigarettes and alcohol, Paul, and I think you just have to roll with it.
Yeah, lots of the latter, none of the former. So yeah,
I'm preparing you. I brought a whole list here, so I'm ready to go through them all because apparently I was too serious last night, so I'm ready to lighten up a bit. So I'm very happy that we won. It's a happy face. This is happy a face that I get. Paul, you haven't actually been on a Celtic World since Brendanrodgers has resigned. I know you probably had the opportunity to be on the Thursday show last week and have a bit of discussion about it with David and Gav. I suppose just before we get into the game, I mean, obviously to set the scene, because obviously Martin O'Neill comes in with Sean Maloney as his assistant or as his right-hand man. Brendanrodgers has left the building. Is that a case of not looking back in anger, Paul, or with regards to Brendan, or are you, where are your feelings? Because obviously it's been a turbulent week, because obviously the shock of him going, the shock of Martin coming in, we get the result against Falkirk, and then obviously now we've got the result against the Huns at Hampden. Where have you been? I mean, it was a bit of a roller coaster. I'm sure there's a Oasis title there that I can't think of right now. But where did you sort of end up by the time the team lines came out on Sunday night?
Yeah, I think Wednesday, obviously, the performance and the result on Wednesday sort of brought a bit of positivity back. I think it was a bit of a shock. I think most people expected us to limp on with Brendan in the seat for a bit, and potentially just the season could have just fizzled out. So, yeah, look, weird how the board has really got to take a lot of the blame for how the season's panned out. I think whatever you think about Brendan Rodgers, there's absolutely no reason why we wouldn't have invested or shouldn't have invested. And if we invested as we should have, like we should every single year, I would imagine we'd be top of the league and in the Champions League. And we're not, because there was a massive lack of investment in the summer. But having got to the position we got to, I don't think many would argue that it was going positively, and change was probably needed. So yeah, come last night and the team lines come out, I was pretty happy. In fact, yeah, the team is pretty much exactly what I expected it to be. So happy with that. The only difference from the team I called was I thought Tenecti might get switched to the right and play on the right hand side, just to try and give further width, because he's obviously naturally right footed, and I feel like the way Maloney and Martin O'Neill are playing is they're trying to get more width in, they're trying to get more crosses in, so there's not as much of a requirement for that winger that sort of cuts in onto the stronger foot. So that was, yeah, I got the 11 right. I didn't quite get the positions of the wingers right, but everything else was there. And yeah, I felt that we were the better squad and the better side, and we should go and win the game. Probably made a bit more heavy weather of it than we should have, especially second half. But ultimately, we pushed on and we got the job done.
Yes, I think my biggest criticism overall was probably the second half performance. I mean, we really had an opportunity to really hammer it home within the 90 minutes, and probably part of that was my self-preservation kicking in, knowing I had to go to work this morning and just hoping that we'd have it wrapped up within the 90, but obviously not to be in the end. And we'll go through, we're going to go through all the major incidents, talking points throughout the game, and get both mine and Paul's opinion, see if mine's changed 24 hours on, not for many of them. But I'm just trying, before we do that, I'm just going to bring a few of the comments before we sort of go any further. So we'll just got here, the Huns are shitting in their nappies, ha ha ha. Yeah, no, they're not happy bunnies. I think they thought new manager the other day a different result, but unfortunately for them, same result for them. Hail, hail, folks. Hail, hail to you, Davids. I think Craig McLean, a bit like you, Paul, having a very, very long hangover. So he's saying having a beer just to try and get rid of that one. And then Frankenstein here saying, when Rangers are man sent off, they still had a living on the pitch. Yes, we will discuss the refereeing because there was a few questionable decisions, shall we say. Very nice comment here. I need to end up on follow. I'm not controversial enough, but I'm doing a great job. Thank you very much, Ampang Boy, for your words of encouragement and support. And then love it just saying here, talking about Rodgers, just sort of saying that he's a bit of a divide in the support, because it just shows how the players might have been lacking a bit of confidence. And I really, really think that that's probably what Martin O'Neill has brought into this whole setup. I mean, he looked like an absolute rock and roll star with that tracksuit last night. And if we didn't have a ban on buying merchandise, I have to say, I'd be inclined to probably go after that one, because that was a bit of baller from Martin. And apparently, he doesn't like the clingy, skinny leggings stuff. He got stuffed into that on Thursday night against Falkirk, so he likes the slightly baggier, more classic style. For those who listen to these press conferences, so Paul, I agree. I had that team picked. I thought Maeda would come in. He's too good a player to leave out. And it gives you that impact of Forrest off the bench. I thought he would probably slot in on the right. So it just makes that an easy substitution to bring Forrest on. Ultimately, Tenecti was the one who made way. And I can understand that decision as well. And again, we'll get into that as the game goes on. David has stopped saying the ref was a joke. Yep, he will not be missed by the time this podcast is over. And then McLaughlin P insinuating that Maeda might still have been injured had Rodgers still been there. Debatable. But glad to have him back in the team. I think that's the important thing. And he was in his menacing ways and giving it to the opposition players. I particularly liked when he ran up to Asgard and got in his face as soon as, even before he was red carded, but, after that horrific tackle on Anthony Ralston, which again, we will get to. So we may as well bring out some pictures and get into it, Paul. So the first major talking point that Gav has set up for us here is, bear with me, is it's actually the offside goal. So this was the ricochet. This was Najida, who I think is quite possibly the worst right back I've ever seen in Scottish football, let alone playing for Rangers. This guy was absolutely minced 6 weeks ago when we played them at Ibrox. And unfortunately, we had Balakwisha on that day in that left wing, just not exploiting how terrible this player is. He had to deal with Tanecki, and in this situation, panics and basically arsehole winds it off of Raston into the back of the net. Oh, sorry, I've skipped ahead there. Apologies. I thought there was 2 images of that one, but that's all we're getting. And yeah, apparently this was deemed offside, Paul. VAR getting involved. VAR getting involved because it was given as a goal on play. This is the image that I've managed to find. And this is like a live image. This isn't the image that VAR used, but this is like the best camera angle that I could find. And this is actually, it's a bit zoomed out, but this is the ball as it's being played. And you can clearly see there that Maeda's trailing leg isn't trailing as much as it was in the image that was used in VAR. So I have a sneaking suspicion here that Andrew Dallas has maybe got his frames out by 1 or 2 milliseconds and managed to create an offside where there wasn't one. But I'm not a big fan of conspiracy theories, but I think it's just gross incompetence. And yet again, Dallas has form in this regard. He's done it once before. Paul, thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't believe that they found an angle that had it showing us offside, to be honest, because this is the one you saw in the coverage. Micah Stewart was also a bit baffled and bamboozled when it was
Mikey Stewart is often bamboozled and confused, though. So I mean, that's like, take that with a pinch of salt. But
yeah, he's.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I'm not a massive Mikey Stewart hater. I don't mind him. He doesn't nail everything, but he's one of the better co-commentators that are out there, I think. And he'd seen this image and then didn't think it was offside, and neither did I. When I saw this image, I was absolutely convinced the goal was going to stand. Absolutely convinced it was going to stand. And yeah, then we found an image with 2 lines that didn't really showed what they needed it to show, but it was a much deeper angle than this. Odd to say the least. Thankfully, it didn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things. Although, if the next chance that I think you're about to show had gone in, there would have been a much bigger uproar from our fan base if their resident donkey had stuck in a gilt-edged chance. That happened a couple of minutes after this.
I'm just trying to bring that up now, Paul. So this was the Chimetti, and they paid £9 million for this guy. Is that right?
8.5. Yeah.
This is a shocker, and they've gone with 2 up front, so they're obviously trying to play an attacking brand of football. It's a big gamble against Celtic to go with two up top, and I mean, it was a well-worked move because it almost looked like Danilo was offside at one point, but he never actually got the ball. And I think that kind of just confused the Celtic defence a wee bit, allows Chimetti to come in here, and he's got to hit the target. I mean, to miss everything. I mean, Schmeichel makes himself big. He does his usual spread. And I've got my thoughts on Schmeichel in this game, but he comes out and makes himself big. And Chimetti just bottles it and just hits it wide. And you're thinking, there's this chance, and then there's a Raston chance in a couple of slides' time. And they're, I think, in the first half, the 2 best chances of the game. I mean, they are like out of nothing, really. Like we're coasting, but we had the lion's share of the possession, the lion's share of the chances, attacking play, and they just try to carve these 2 chances out of nothing. And another day, a better player might have scored it, but thankfully not. They got rid of Dessers, and they brought this lad in. So hell menges. Anyway, so that one, and then moving on from that, this was actually, before we get to this, I don't actually have the slide. I don't have the slide of it, but there's a Cornelius challenge, which on first view, and I went, "Oh, that's a bad challenge. That's definitely a yellow card." But I didn't really sort of. Actually, I think I said after the game, I thought it might be like an amber card in terms of like it's one of those ones you see given as a yellow, given as a red. But I look back at it today, that's a red card. That's an ankle breaking challenge that he puts in.
On live first view, I thought it was a red. I did. I thought that looks pretty nasty. But the camera cut away quite quickly, and we took ages to see a replay. And then VAR skimmed over it again, and it's only today that you've seen multiple angles of it. Slowed down, obviously slowing down, but does make it worse. But for me, it's a red all day long. He's got studs up, and as you say, he's right into the ankle of Johnny Kenny. Kenny's very lucky his foot wasn't solidly planted, or he's in real trouble. And I can't believe, well, I can because Scottish football. But if VAR's doing its job properly, that's got to be referred. Just another bamboozler, to be honest. I don't think we'd even. Well, I think that became a yellow, didn't it? So it was given as a yellow. I think that was the first booking of the match.
Yes, that was the first booking of the match. So that was early doors. Because we joked post match, pre-match, saying that how long will it take Diamonde to get in the book? It probably won't be till like late in the game. I don't actually think he ended up getting booked, believe it or not.
No.
He's usually the serial offender, but in this case it was Cornelius, and nasty challenge. So that's one, right? So just as a quick sort of aside before we get into this wonderful goal, by the way, and I stressed this last night. This was an absolutely brilliant header to get us into the lead. But before we just pause that for a second, the loser narrative that's coming out with Danny Rolls and James Tavernier last night, we were cheated. Austin Trusty should have had a red card. They need to have a look at these decisions that went in their favour. Cornelius could easily have seen red for this. That goal, debatable whether that was offside, right? So there's 2 questionable decisions within the first 24 minutes of the game that have gone their way, right? And we're not even a quarter of the way through the game yet. So that just keep a running tally. So that's 2, right? This was, quite honestly, one of the best headed goals I think I've ever seen Celtic score in recent history. Like, you're going back to the Martin O'Neill days the first time around to see goals of this caliber, the Mialbis, these sorts of players scoring these sorts of goals. But unfortunately, I don't have a better angle. I'll see if I do. I do. There we go. The fact that he's a good few yards ahead of the post and is able to get his header directed back the way with power to beat Butland. So he beats Butland for pace. Butland sticks his hand up and he's done for pace here. He's got 4, but there's definitely 3 Rangers defenders around him. And it's a great delivery. That the ball in from Engels is fantastic, but this, I can't stress enough how good a goal this is. And this will do Johnny Kenny's confidence a world of good. The 2 goals, obviously, against Falkirk, that guaranteed him his starting spot. Because if he hadn't done that against Falkirk, I reckon my header would have started in the middle. But he gets his 2 goals against Falkirk. They stick with him, show him a bit of confidence, a bit of faith, and this is what he's delivered. This is an excellent striker's goal. And if this was Kyogo or whoever you'd be, it's top drawer. Paul.
Yeah, echo it. Like I think there's a comment there saying Larsson-esque, and there's a lot of jokes about the Johnny Larsson stuff this week, but it is a brilliant header. It should not be skimmed over that it's an amazing delivery from Engels as well. But you're right, the cross is whipped. It's an outswinging whipped cross, so there's plenty of pace on there. He has to use that, but he has to redirect it back in, and he does it brilliantly. Yeah, you're right. It'll be fantastic for his confidence. He nearly got another one. Got a good breakaway run and sort of managed to got a bit of luck, I think, as he sort of went through the defence, and Butler got down and saved it well and sort of palmed it around the post. But yeah, really, really good header. Engels' delivery was up and down on the day, but there was more good than bad. I've got another view on that to potentially to dig into later if we've got time. But yeah, it just showed, like, we've now scored a few goals from corners in the last couple of games, maybe 3 games. I think we scored against Sturm Graz and obviously here, and I can't remember if we scored from a corner against Falkirk maybe, but yeah, it just shows you good quality delivery into the box, get players attacking it aggressively, and yeah, you'll get chances and score goals.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. Thank you. And then what we got next? Oh yeah, little celebration there as well. Definitely sticking it to the Rangers crowd there. You can see they're dead happy about that. And then literally, I think this is like literally a minute later. Where are we? It's about 3 minutes. 3 minutes later, so he has this other chance, and again had all the power on it. And this is actually a decent save from Butland. I mean, Butland shouldn't be getting beat from this angle at that distance, but as it turns out later on, he can be beaten from distance. But yeah, not in this occasion. But a good follow up from Kenny with a lot of confidence at that point in his play. And then, like I said, again, out the blue, like, again, we've got all this domination down our end, and all of a sudden, they just managed to find a way through. Like, McGregor, I think, gets sucked out of position a little bit here. Raskin sort of makes the run, and McGregor realizes too late that Raskin sort of bypassed him. He's in on goal. I think he takes too long to set himself. It gives Schmeichel a chance again to do the same spread that he basically makes the same position, the same pose about 3 or 4 times throughout the match, successful on every occasion, I might add, and manages to sort of pull the save. And then you've got Austin Trusty sliding in to sort of clear the rebound. So well defended, but it was a little bit of a warning sign that we just, I guess this was the trade-off between, the Rodgers style of play where it's 80% possession and stifle the opposition, as opposed to Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney being a little bit more direct, maybe giving away 10-15% possession, but creating umpteen more chances. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and I think this is maybe a little bit of a byproduct. You've got Trusty and Stales still forming that sort of centre-half partnership. There's a few, like I said, wee things still gelling, but I still think the upside to having a little bit less control at the moment is there. I mean, it might come unstuck against Michelin during the week, but that's a whole nother conversation. But Schmeichel does everything he needs to do here, and you can see, Raston's got the whole goal to aim at, and managed to sort of get the save. So important. And at 1-0, and Schmeichel made this sort of save against Falkirk as well at 1-0, not quite the same sort of save, but made another important save during the week as well. So he's coming up with big saves at important times, and sort of helping us sort of get where we want to be. And then this was sort of a couple of minutes after that. So this was Chimeti again, another great chance. I don't know how. I think Strachey's left him at the back stick there, and he's had, again, it was a free header basically, and he's totally, not a free header, but a free chance on goal, and he's just totally missed everything. Again, spooked by Schmeichel. So again, that £8.5 million quiz looking well spent. This was a free kick from Engels, and it was a really, really enticing delivery, and it's just asking for Niederin to get a decent touch on it. And this is probably where Niederin's not really strong, so just these little deft wee sort of flicks and touches. Can't see me get it on there, and this is at sort of 35-minute mark. So that was another wee sort of half chance that we had.
Yeah, it was just a wee bit static there. I'd have liked to see at least one other player gamble on a diagonal run from sort of middle or back post across the keeper's line of vision, because once that happens, that's when you start causing a bit of chaos and mayhem, and these are the ones you can see sometimes sort of dropping in at the back post. Now, Butland's pretty well positioned there, but when he shaped up to take this free kick, I was hoping he would try and whip it near post, because I think there was an opportunity to try and catch him out with where his position is. But he went for the more kind of, I guess, routine delivery into the danger area, but nobody could get on the end of it.
Mesh is saying here that we've changed our tactics and Kenny's now more of the target man. Well, Kenny's starting now, so I guess that potentially makes him a useful target. He wasn't sort of getting game time up until recently, but yeah, interesting. Again, it just gives you another threat, because now teams will be looking at that going, you've got Kenny, you've now got Stales. Because Stales obviously gets marked out most of the time. I mean, occasionally he gets away with one, but you've now got potentially a couple of aerial threats for set pieces, which...
Trusty's probably more of a threat than CCV as well in the opposition box. So it's got that extra height. So yeah, I think now you've got potentially 3 solid targets. And then you've got somebody like Negrin who sneaks in against Sturm Grants and, pretty much just bounces off his head and goes in. But, if you've got more options, then there's a good chance you'll score more goals.
Wilson QW, Alex Ray on Superstore board. Absolutely glorious to watch. Yeah, I might need to check that out later. Thank you. So we then get up to the probably the least controversial refereeing decision you'll probably see this season. Michael Stewart attempting all sorts of mental gymnastics on how Asgard was hard done by and didn't mean it, and there's no malice and whatever, but all I can say is I'm happy that Anthony Ralston is married with children, because this could have been a bit of a vasectomy-like attack here on his private parts, because that was an absolutely sore one, and he rode it well. And to fair him, he played the whole game. So I mean, absolutely fair credit to the Bricky, because a lot of other players would have put their hand up and said that was it. And as I said beforehand, as soon as he does this, Dyson is right over to Asgard, letting him know that he's a bit of a diddy. And he's rightly sent off. And there should be absolutely no complaint from any Rangers supporter that's not a straight red. And on top of that, I don't know why he was hanging around. I don't know if he was thinking that VAR was going to save him, but there's nothing else to say. It's a red card all day long.
Yeah, I think it is. It absolutely is. But I do agree. I think Stuart kind of muddled his language a bit, and he never actually quite got to the point where he said it's still definitely a red. But he was right in that there was no malice on it. His eyes were on the ball. He flicked it up. He came through. They're just 2 players going for it. But as soon as you're catching a player, look, he could have gotten below the knee with that kind of challenge, and it was still a red. Once you catch him up near the old family jewels, you're in real trouble. And I thought there was a couple of things that Ralston did that was really sort of good here. Is one, he sort of took it like a bit of a champ, as he does. He's sort of known as a bit of a hard man in the team. But then he made sure that he stood up and gave the camera a really good opportunity to get a close up of the hole in the shorts. Pulled the shorts up so that you could see the stud marks all down the thigh. So yeah, he made sure that there was no getting away from what where he'd been hit and how he'd been tackled. So the reaction from the Celtic players I really enjoyed as well. Yeah, Maeda was right over the top of him. Kenny was going nuts. I think you made some really positive comments about Schmeichel. I'll add another one here in that he got to that incident really quickly and showed really good leadership. McGregor was in there as well, as you would expect, try to calm people down and drag people away. But Schmeichel, Kenny looked like he was going to lose the plot. I guess young player, first probably one of his, I think probably his first big derby. And Schmeichel covered a lot of ground to get to him and drag him out of there, because it's really easy for those situations to blow up. We've seen plenty down the years where players that don't need to be involved get involved to get themselves either daftly booked or sent off. So, I was impressed with Schmeichel, and I'd like the togetherness of the team in terms of there's 7 or 8 of them kind of getting in faces and and making sure that they didn't get away with what was basically an assault, albeit kind of accidental.
So this was an Egrin chance on 41 minutes. He does a bit of individual sort of brilliance here, and he sort of he gets a bit of a lucky break of the ball, but he basically beats 2 Rangers players. And he gets into a position where he takes the shot, but when you look at it from another angle, you've got Johnny Kenny running in here on his probably his left peg, and he could have potentially had the better angle, but obviously got on each other's road, and they sort of pointed the finger at one another a wee bit. But yeah, I can understand Negrin in this situation because he's done all the hard work, and he is a bit of a greedy player. He is a bit selfish, which can be an attribute in an attacking player. But yeah, I think in hindsight, maybe looks back on it, he probably should have left it for Kenny. But again, it was just that was the first real attacking impetus that we had post them going down to sort of 10 men. But unfortunately, not enough to sort of conjure up another goal. And yeah, you can see there, Kenny saying it, saying Negrin, she left it for me. But anyway, not to be.
I think the only other thing to say about that is he probably should have left it. I thought the Rangers defender was going to leave a leg in and trip him because he sort of just jinked past him. And I think he was probably, I don't think he ever thought he was going to get a shot away because I think he was trying to draw the foul. And yeah, the defender was smart enough to not hang out a leg. And it went past.
And then, and this was right on stroke of half time. So sort of ball played in and Trusty sort of followed it through here and dangled a foot. No real, force applied, but there's definitely contact made. And obviously we were on the receiving end of a red card for Yang at Tynecastle. Was it last season, the season before? Was that 1 season or 2 seasons ago? Whatever it was.
Possibly 2 seasons ago.
And that was literally the faintest of touches. So again, in this situation, I just think, why take the risk? Like, what are you hoping to achieve here? Best case scenario, you get booked. Worst case scenario, you get sent off, and it's 10 apiece. And you're having a great game, so it's not like you're having a bad game or you're injured or whatever. But I just don't understand the rationale here. And I know there's plenty of people online today, he should have stamped on his face and he should have done this, should have done that. Like, I get we hate Rangers but beat them on the park, beat them by playing football, beat them by being the better team, not by whatever this is. So I think for me, this was the only thing that really let down Austin Trusty's game yesterday. I know Michael Stewart gave him the man of the match, and defensively he was sound, like a new signing really, because he's come out the cold. He put in an excellent performance against Falkirk. He's had an excellent performance last night. Said as much, but for me, this just takes the shine off it a wee bit because you just got to ask yourself, what's the master plan in this, Paul?
He's just a bit of a brain fart here, right? Like, I think this is just a daft decision, and he's not really thought. I was talking about this at halftime in the pub. I was basically saying, the absolute best players and actually absolute best sportsmen and women in whatever their sport is, they've got the ability to have a complete moment of clarity in the pressure point moments and make the right decision in the blink of an eye. And he didn't do that here. He got a bit distracted and look, maybe he thinks that the Butlin's going to spill it. So, he has a wee poke out in the hope that it comes back out of his hands. It's just daft. That's the best you can say him. That's his own, that is potentially, that's what he's thinking about. I think he's a lucky boy. I think we're lucky here. I think based on the force, you could just about get away with a yellow. But if you look at the letter of the law, then he's endangered an opponent by sort of sticking a foot in his face. I think if it's given on the pitch, I don't think it gets overturned by VAR. So, that's, to me, that's a kind of reasonable way of looking at these decisions. If it's a coin flip and they're given one way, I don't think you're overturning it. So he's a lucky lad to stay on the pitch. And I think if we'd gone down to 10 men there, the things would have looked a little bit different second half.
Well, how many times have you seen referees try and even it up? Like, you're very sent off a Rangers player, so it's like, oh, well, there'll be less scrutiny sending off a Celtic player for similar-ish circumstances. Yes, the force isn't there, but there is contact in the head and endangering an opponent. So I agree. So lucky, that's the one where we got a little bit of fortune. Hail, everyone. Hail, Pam. Thank you for joining us. And then a little comment here from John Clements, bit of an old man joke. Ricky singing like Tiny Tim. Yes, I'm hoping everything is left intact for his sake. But yes, put his body on the line on that one. We're now into the second half. We're just going to keep racing through these because we're 35 minutes. I'm conscious we've got a lot of stuff still to get through. So there's some games where there's not a lot that happens, and this is one of these days where that wasn't the case. There was too much going on. Basically, it was every I was writing notes every 2 minutes. It was just absolutely incredible last night watching this game. So this was actually 63
I think, is it?
minutes. Yes, Nygren. So Nygren header. So this was from another Angles corner. So a low header, and somehow Butland managed to get down, get a hand to it. So it was actually, this is one of Butland's really, really good saves. And so I kept them in it at this point, because a second goal and it would have been all over, but he managed to keep them in it. And this one here, Srirachi and Nygren combined. So this was the one where it was just crying out for a better sort of deflection from Nygren. And I don't know if I've got a second image of it. No, I don't. And that was, again, it's just Nygren. This is Nygren's not his strong suit, these sort of deflected type, one touch type chances. Like, he's just not that natural finisher. Like, he gets in good positions. Like, this is good positioning, but this is my criticism of him. And that's not to say that it won't improve as the season goes on, but it's just what we've got to work with. And, it's not a criticism. It's just an observation. And then we're on to this. James Forrest is on by now, so this is 69 minutes. This was a deserving of a winning goal. I mean, he absolutely hits. He can't actually hit it any sweeter. Srirachi sort of comes alive when Tenekti comes off. It kind of like just opens up the highway down that left hand side, and just gives him the green light to bomb on, and he plays an absolutely great cutback here. And I think Jamesy just hits it too well. And another day, it hits the crossbar, bounces off Jack Butland's back, and bounces back into the goal. But unfortunately, not to be. And Butland gathers. But I really thought at this point, Paul, Forrest was going to be a difference maker. I thought he was the one that was going to just give us that little moment of magic, that little moment of brilliance. We just needed it once. One goal, and I'd make it 2-0, and then it would, like I said, it would end up being 3 or 4. They'd have thrown the towel in. You just need him to be a shaker maker, but yeah. So thoughts. I know I probably feel like I've skipped past the first sort of 20 minutes of the second half there, and to fairness, Rangers did have a wee 10-minute bit in there from about 55 minutes to 65 minutes where they did threaten without creating out-and-out chances, but that Gazma, how do you say his name? But
Gazema, I think, or Gazema.
He came on at half-time, and I kind of felt like he provided them with a lot more threat than the two donkeys that they had up front in the first half. So I kind of felt that Rose maybe got that one wrong, because he was a wee bit of a threat, but obviously didn't end up scoring, but. Anything up to that point, Paul, that caught your eye that I've missed?
I just think we lot, and Martin O'Neill mentioned this in his post-match comments. I think I think going in 1-0 up and 10 men, I think there was and we'd been the better side for the first half. I think there was a bit of maybe a little bit of a malaise or kind of expectation that it would just happen, right? Like the second goal would just come because we had the extra man. And I don't really think we took advantage of the extra man for a good chunk of the second half. There was clearly space on the pitch, and there was plenty of space in wide areas. We occasionally sprung it. Engels had a brilliant raking pass right to left and opened up space. McGregor got on the ball a few times and sprayed it out, mainly to the left. But we didn't do that often enough. And yeah, Rolls was brave with his selection second half. He took a bit of a gamble, and he kept players high up the pitch. You're right; they didn't really create anything of a note, but they definitely had possession in and around our half and final third. Didn't do much with it in the end. We dealt with pretty much everything. but yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in the fact that we didn't really try. We didn't put them to the sword. We didn't put them to bed. Like I felt if we'd got one relatively early in the second half, I think it could have been 3, 4, 5, and I think we'd all enjoyed to see that. It's been a long time. But yeah, I think the longer they stay in it, and Butland kept them in it with, I think he probably had 4 or 5 really good saves across the whole match, including extra time. Yeah, it just gave them enough that something might happen for them, and obviously eventually it did.
So yes, this was a weak shot from Atadi, and Butland fumbles it, so he actually drops it, but there's no Celtic players there anticipating the sort of bobble or the fumble, and Callum Osman's on the park by this point, and so is Atati. But yeah, just one of those ones where just crying out for someone to be falling in on, and then I don't have an image of it, but a minute after this, we've got Liam Stales making the lung busting run back and putting in that sliding challenge, which it was I'm gonna say it was a certain goal. He obviously still had to beat Schmeichel, but he sort of, I think, in fairness, Stales probably slightly positioned ever so slightly. He gets sort of done on the turn, which Liam Stales can happen to him, but in fairness, he manages to do the recovery run, and that sliding tackle was put into absolute timed perfection. Like, really could not have timed it any better, and he had to time it better, because anything a second earlier or a second later would have been a penalty. So fair dues there. And then this basically is where they put us under a little bit of pressure, and at least to this incident here, Paul. And I have to say, I cannot believe this was given as a penalty. Well, I mean, I say I can't believe it. I can believe it. I don't want to believe it. But yeah, I mean, I do not understand what Anthony Ralston is supposed to do in this situation. I kind of feel the Rangers player kind of nudges him, shoves him, so he's off balance anyway. Sean last night made the comment that if his hand was bracing him on the ground and hit his arm with his hand planted on the ground, then that wouldn't have been a penalty, but he's done his best to basically be Superman, keeping his arms by his side, like a human torpedo. And somehow Nick Walsh has went, oh yes, this is a penalty kick. And then Barr's like taking half a glance at it, because the review didn't take very long at all. Normally these things, like, they drag them out for like 5 minutes when Celtic have one of these decisions, but shoes on the other foot, and it was literally, I think I counted about 10, maybe 15 seconds at best. And yeah, and then that was it. It was a penalty.
I think there's lots of odd things about this. One of the odd things about this is it seems to be the far side linesman that brings this test to Walsh's attention. I don't think Walsh is going to give it on the pitch, and I don't have a clue how the linesman on the far side of the pitch can see categorically that that's a handball. I think for me, there's two things. One, I don't know where else his arms can be. He's tried his absolute utmost to make himself as small a target as possible. And then he's absolutely nudged, which is why he ends up going in that direction. And then once he's fallen in that direction, obviously he tries to make himself, basically puts his body on the line. But one of my frustrations with the whole game was, if we breathed on one of their players, Walsh was given free kicks all over the place. There's a clear nudge on Ralston's back here, and if that's been anywhere else on the pitch, and it's a Celtic player and Rangers player, that was being given as a foul all day long. So funny how when it happens here, not only is it not given as a foul, it leads to a penalty. And then they try to add insult to injury, saying he should have been sent off because he was already on a booking, which Sean probably touched on this last night. But I think, the handball rules are pretty clear on this these days, that's not a second yellow.
Well, it's not a penalty, so it could be a second yellow. I mean, it's like that would have been like the nail, the final straw if that had been a second. a second yellow. I mean, you can imagine the crowd and the atmosphere if that had been given as a second yellow. I mean, the penalty was bad enough. I mean, Tavernier makes no mistake, and it was a well-hit penalty. I mean, striker went the right way, but you've got to say that guy knows how to hit a penalty. Like, you know, he really does able to hit either side and varies it and changes it. So you kind of felt like there was no way that wasn't going to end up in the back of the net. So that makes it one each. We're 45 minutes, Paul, so we're going to keep cracking on here. So Maisie run from James Forrest here. This is for me is the chance of the game for Celtic in terms of like actual clear cut, like should score chances. It does amazingly well here. Jinx pass, 2 or 3 Rangers players, looks up, you can see the space there that he plays the ball into Callum Osmond. Hatate's obviously showing there, but he bypasses. I think Callum Osmond's probably got almost too much time here. Just doesn't get the power on it that he's looking for. Butland has an easy save to make in the end, but it's just if he hits it hard enough, then there's a possible for ricochet. You see Maeda's running in there. You just don't know. It could have spun off him and could end up the back of the net. Maeda could have gotten to the end of it, but just doesn't quite get the power. But for me, this was where my frustration really started to creep in, and just like a young player, totally left out by Brendanrodgers. And there was a comment, I don't know if I started earlier, but I didn't. There's one comment in the section that's just talking about, you know, Rodgers cutting his nose off to spite his face. I really think Callum Osmond's one of these guys where he's definitely put in that basket of, I didn't ask for you. You've kind of been put upon me. So, you know, you're going to play for the B team or not get a look in. But Maloney's obviously seen something, because it's not Martin O'Neill, because Martin O'Neill didn't know any of the players when he walked in the door. So it's definitely Sean Maloney that's decided to bring this kid in. And there's a player there. And as obviously, you know, spoiler alert, he gets his goal later on. But it's just one of these ones where on another day, he's definitely got it in his ability and his wheelhouse to tuck this away. And he's learning. He's a young player, and sometimes you don't miss a chance to score a chance. But just, you know, the ability just to put this to bed in 90 minutes would have been nice. But not to be.
He probably just needs to lift it off a little bit, a yard or two off the ground, curl it into the far post, and it you know, tuck it away there. And you're right. It's probably that's just a he sort of snatched it and sort of choked the finish into the ground. But yeah, makes no mistake later. So as you say, something, you know, most strikers need more than one chance per game to get on the end of something. Even somebody as good as Kyogo missed his fair share of chances. So yeah, not, you know, frustrating at the time, but no harm done in the end.
And then Hatate blazes this one over the bar. I thought he was very anonymous when he came off the bench. I know we were looking for quality, and he didn't really provide it for me. He was just very, very anonymous and didn't really.
He was a bit wasteful.
Enough.
He's a bit wasteful again. Like you know, passes went astray, and it's just a bit frustrating. This was it's his ball out to Forrest, and Forrest controlled the sort of inside ball really well, and Hatate just sort of hit it up in the sky. So not an ideal finish from him.
This one was a bit different. This one was supersonic, Paul. Callum McGregor, he had Butland going all over the place. I mean, on first viewing, I thought this was actually like top corner. Like I was watching it, and just the camera angle made me think that, oh, Butland's been done here. Like it's top corner, like no chance. And then Michael Shearer goes, oh, Butland will probably think you should have done better. And I'm like, bloody hell, Michael, that's a bit rough. And then I see this angle, and I'm like going, yeah, he's dived right past it. Like I had a bit of spin, not spin, but dip. But it was sort of rising up into the roof of the net. But he's totally misjudged this one, and he's had a really, credit where credit's due. He's had a really good game up to this point, but he's had an absolute fucking mare with this one. Like he's totally misjudged it.
I've got a little bit of sympathy for him here, because Johnny Suter doesn't do him any favors. He sort of ducks it. He's blocking his view completely, and then he ducks his head at the last minute. So Butland's anticipate. I think McGregor is hitting brilliantly, and I think he also cut across it. There's a little bit of spin that's sort of bringing it back into the middle of the goal. So he sort of over dived on it. You see this about actually with when the ball moves a bit in the air from distance, he sort of expected it to come further right, and then it's just sort of bent and straightened up, and then add to the fact John Suter just sort of ducks at the very last minute. He's pretty unsighted by the time that comes through. He'll be disappointed, but yeah, I think the main culprit. There's two main culprits. Like, we talk a lot about defensive mistakes being the unit's fault when we dissect goals that we lose. The Rangers defense should have been way quicker to get out to McGregor. He's given far too much time to size that up, and he's able to step onto it, get out of his feet, and absolutely lace it. And then John Suter's had an absolute mare ducking out of the way at the last minute. So yeah, great strike. At a great time, 3 minutes into the start of extra time, and then I think Osman's goal was 3 minutes into the second half of extra time. So really good times to score, really kind of settle us into the extra time period and take some of that pressure off. So yeah, kind of captain stood up when he really needed it.
Yeah, no, the defenders were half a world away trying to get out to that one. So all good. Moving on. I'm not moving on. So that was an excellent goal, by the way, and that really, we needed it. And Callum sort of steps up. So, and this is the other image of that one there, winding up from distance. You can see the space there. This one here, Callum Osmond, unlucky. He actually gets a good amount of power on the header, but probably just directs it just a wee bit low. But another really good save from Butland, because he forces the save, but unfortunately the way he's headed it down, it's probably just taking some of the power out of it. But again, he does well. He's in between two defenders there and managed to get the header. So definitely, you can feel it was coming. The more the game went on, I just hope this laddie gets his goal. Because he deserved it for his work rate and his endeavour, and he was getting, like I say, he was getting the right positions. He just needed a little bit for it to go his way. And then this was literally 3 minutes later. Gazma 1-on-1, Trusty sort of beaten here, and again Schmeichel. He really, this is going to be cringe, but he was our wonder wall because he's done the same save 3 or 4 times, and he wasn't beaten on the night. And I know you were talking about him on Friday, Paul. I think it was sort of saying that Martin O'Neill will go with Schmeichel, and I had no doubt that he would go with Schmeichel as well. I mean, no greatest respects to Sinisalo, but Martin O'Neill is very much big player, leadership, and in a time of turmoil. You're going to turn to your leaders. And like I said, Schmeichel had that great save against Falkirk during the week, so I knew he would start, but I think he repaid the manager for his selection here, because he was just imposing and really, it just made himself big, and it worked again, because he's managed to pull the save here, and again keep us in it, because saves at 1-0, saves at 2-1, so they're important times. Anything you want to add on Schmeichel, Paul? We're kind of fast around out of time.
No, yeah, I obviously said what I said on Friday, that I thought even though Sinisalo was looking like he might be shaping up as the cup keeper for this season, obviously given everything that's happened in the past week, you've got to get your big players on the field, and you need, like you say, you need leaders. So yeah, it was the right selection, and yeah, Casper really stood up on the day for sure.
I'll definitely stand by me. So this is Callum Osmond's third chance, nearly getting closer, and actually a really, really good ball here from Ralston. Inch perfect. Engels does ever so well to get to the get here and get contact and slide across and get the cross in. He's done really, really well here. Osmond's on the spin. It just gave you that Kyogo-like vibe. Just doesn't quite get the connection. Butland gets the save, and Tavernier with a really, really handy leg. And I don't have sympathy for Rangers players, but I've got to make a wee bit of a mention for Tavernier. This laddie, he started at right wing back. He's then centre mid, and he ends up at right back. He scores a penalty. Basically didn't give up the whole game. He was the one guy that was still trying at the end of the game. So, I mean, the amount of pelters that guy gets from opposition support and
his own support as well.
He's awesome. That's what I mean. Sorry, that was what I was getting at. His own support. You know, like, well, I don't know what else the guy's got to do, but anyway, just an observation. And here we are. This makes it 3-1. And Kieran Tierney, on this point, just becoming more and more influential as the game went on. He replaced Srirachi, who came down with cramp. And this was the other real, probably big decision that that Neil and Maloney had to make, and I think it was the right one. I think, you know, having James Forrest, Kieran Tierney, Riho Hatate, in theory, coming off the bench, I think, and they're three strong impact substitutions that can really impact the game. And yeah, I thought Tierney sort of got more and more into the game, grew into it the more the game went on. And this was a classic sort of Kieran Tierney driving cross. And you can see here, Osman's just timed his run perfectly, and he's just done the Kyogo slide. And it's just basically slide away into the back of the net. And I'm so happy for him as well, because, you know, like I said, he had 3 chances prior to this. I'd have to say this is probably the hardest one of the 4, to be honest. I mean, the other ones are more clear-cut, actual ball at his feet chances, where this is instinctive, making the right run, timing his run, and just popping up in between the defenders. Great goal, and just seals it, because like you say, this is right at the start of the second half of extra time, so it just totally kills it from this point out. So yeah, it's a great goal.
McGregor, I think, kind of starts it. He has it in midfield, and sort of he sees Tierney bombing on, and he plays a great pass out to KT, and he doesn't have to break stride. And then he just drives in and fires on a really dangerous ball, and Osman's on the move. Really hard to defend against. Great finish. And again, his post-match comments were, I think he said it was the best day of his life, and he'll never forget that. It was pointed out to me that not only is it his first goal for Celtic, it'll be his first professional goal. Like, he never played a top team game for Fulham, so it's his first goal in sort of professional football. And what a game to do it in. And I think for all of us, it just gave us that bit of breathing space, and we went, oh, thank God for that. We're not going to have to go to penalties, and I might get an hour or two skip before I get on a plane. Fantastic way to start the second half of extra time, and after that, it really knocked the stuffing out of them, and we never looked troubled from there.
Yes, no, that was nice, and that just sort of sealed it. So it means that we will be meeting St Mirren in the League Cup final on the 14th of December. I'm pretty sure that was the date that was announced. It's about 6 weeks from now. So we will be covering that one on the Monday following that one. So something to look forward to. Unlucky Huns. And then I think there was a few Hearts supporters jumping in last night. I'm really like, what are you guys crowing on about? Like, we're in a League Cup final. You guys couldn't even make it. So piss off.
Nonsense,
nonsense. Absolutely. Paul, we're at 58 minutes. I don't know how that happened, but here we are. I guess the sad thing is, during the week, that Osmond isn't in the squad for the Europa League clash against Midtjylland. So we've basically got Maeda and Kenny as our 2 centre forward options. So we're going to have to make that work. Other interesting team selection, which we didn't talk about at the start, was no Paulo Bernardo. He was replaced with Yang on the bench. So I'm not quite sure what has happened there, but maybe he gets dragged in for the Michelin game, change it up a wee bit. Don't know. We'll see. That's looking ahead. But was there anything else from the game? I just, like I say, the narrative from the Huns after the game, this whole, we were cheated and we were hard done by, and I don't buy it. Crying your hearts out. Like, just own up to it. Like, is it going to be a Rangers manager actually just talks it straight? Is it the fact that their fans can't take it? I really don't know. Like, they've got to be the sycophantic, like, oh, we tried and we did this and we did that. Like, own up to it. Like, you should have played Gasma from the start. And then the other thing, sorry, I should have mentioned is when we put the ball out of play, I think it was Ralston or Trusty, one of our players went down with cramp, and we put the ball out. So as standard general convention goes, the opposition throw the ball back to you to give you the ball back as a sporting courtesy that's gone back, I don't know, since football began, maybe, Paul. I don't know how long that's been a thing. And then Gasmia tries to play on, and then Celtic get wise up to it. And it's like, you have done yourself absolutely no favours going forward in this fixture. You're going to be booed and hounded till you leave Glasgow, which invariably when it comes to Rangers is usually 1 to 2 seasons time. So anyway, enough about that lot. Paul, I may as well jump into my man of the match, unless there's anything else that you want to.
The only thing I thought before, as part of the man of the match, but there was a lot of good performances out there. We've touched on Trusty. I thought Callum McGregor was excellent. I thought Engels had a really good game. Strangely, playing higher up the pitch again, like he played deeper next to Cal against Falkirk, and I really thought that worked, and he just tweaked it slightly and put him back further up. I definitely think you get more out of him if he's just got a bit more of the pitch in front of him to spray passes around. I guess the midfield was quite loaded, so that's probably why he was asked to play higher up the pitch. Like I said earlier in the show, his delivery is still a little bit frustrating. When he gets it right, you pretty much just need to get your head on it and you're scoring goals. But he is over hitting quite a few corners. So given that it's got the propensity to happen, I just want us to put an extra man, leave an extra man out on the far side. So if he does overcook one, there's somebody there to get it back in and keep the pressure. It just seems like a really basic thing to do, and we've not done it. So if you don't, I just think
that would be like a James Forrest or somebody with quick feet, because if they can control it and cut in quickly, they'll get a shot away. Because if you're that far back, so there's definitely players in the team, not tall players, but you're more sort of silky, sort of skillful type players. There's definitely a call. I agree, Paul, because he did it a few times.
You could leave Tenecti or somebody else out there that isn't going to threaten, particularly with their physique inside the box. But if he does overcook it, which he's still a young player, he's still got a lot of development in him. It's, as it currently stands, that's just the end of the attacking threat at the moment, because it just goes out harmlessly for either a goal kick or a throw in. But yeah, Arnie Engels coming on nicely. Really got an opportunity, hopefully, to put a run of games together. But yeah, and Johnny Kenny will be pleased with his performance. Do him the world of good. Great to see Maeda back. He was really back to his own self. He got through a power of work defensively. And yeah, like really got in amongst them and sort of caused them problems and had them rushing around, try to, get rid of balls and stuff like that. But, and we've kind of alluded to this throughout the show, my man of the match is Kasper Schmeichel. I thought he was excellent. 4 big saves. As I said, good leadership when it blew up around their red card, and generally starting to look back to his old self. So yeah, Kasper, the friendly ghost, is my man of the match.
I think the spine of our team was strong. So Schmeichel, Gales, Trusty, McGregor, Engels, and the Dame just sort of built from that. I thought Tenecti was okay. He won us a lot of corners, but he just needed to vary that play up a little bit. He kept attacking and kept trying to take them on the touchline, and that's great. He won a lot of corners, but I just feel that sometimes he needs to vary it a little bit, and his final ball probably still needs a little bit of work. Maeda off the right, better performance. So than probably what we saw, before he got injured. So again, he'll get utilised on that right wing position, I think, until such times as we can strengthen in that position. And then, he's probably going to have to sub in as a potential centre forward in Europe if Iheanacho is still injured, and we've only got Kenny otherwise. So that will probably be the deployment there. And then I thought the fullbacks were decent. Ralston didn't put a foot wrong. I think in these sorts of games where he doesn't have a lot of time to think, he's very instinctive and a bit like Scales, just puts himself about and really challenges well. I don't think there wasn't a bad player on the park. Everyone put in a shift. Subs for the main part did the same. So I think, I really couldn't sort of fault anybody's performance or effort, but definitely that spine was definitely your man of the match. It's a hard one. I said last night I'd split it between Engels and Cal McGregor. I want to give it to Engels because I just feel that the Celtic support is starting to wake up to what that guy is capable of. The comments on Twitter are just starting to be, oh, he's a player. It's like, he always was a player. He was a player last season. He's just a developing player. He's only 20, is he 22 now? Like 21, 22?
I think he's just on 22, yeah.
He's young, like he's still developing, and like we're just expecting him to be the finished article. And it's just like, we've advocated for him every week, Paul. Like I'm talking to the converter to be you, but he's slowly starting to convert portions of the fan base, and I think performances like last night are going to go a long way into, hopefully in the end, people are like, that was 11 million quid well spent. And at this point in time, I'd rather have spent 11 million quid on Arnie Engels than the 8.5 million quid on that dud that they've got up front, because he's nowhere near. He had it here first. Well, he didn't hear it first. I'm sure other people have said that as well, but I'm saying that. That's why I bring this comment up quickly, just so we laugh at the Huns. Suits and shoes. Why we lose? We're a big club. Lol. Yeah. When your manager has to rock up in a suit and brogues to appease the fan base, like they're happy with that. It's like, I think I'd rather be more happy with the tactics and winning games of football. But simple minds and simple creatures, and they're whatever. Paul, probably not really. I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to any other music other than Oasis and whatever. But anything you wanted to? No pressure, because obviously we've had a busy week.
I haven't got anything planned on music. I can't remember if I mentioned Ballpark Music last week, but Ballpark Music were the support act for Oasis. They've been around a long time on the Aussie circuit. Probably not as well known in the Northern Hemisphere, but quite a few albums. So yeah, if you haven't already checked out Ballpark Music, give them a wee listen. And then the only other show I was going to bring people's attention to, I haven't watched it yet, but I think it's going to be great. Same producer as Slow Horses. It's called Down Cemetery Road. It's also written by Mick Kerrin, who wrote the Slow Horses series, and cast led by Emma Thompson and Ruth Wilson. I think it will be.
Oh, Ruth Wilson. She's not been in something for a while.
No, she hasn't. So Luther fans will recognise Ruth Wilson. She's been in quite a few other things as well, but she was excellent in that. And yeah, that is out now. I think at least some episodes are out now on Apple TV. So Down Cemetery Road. If you're a fan of Slow Horses, you'd probably be a fan of that. And yeah, I've started Slow Horses season 5 now that all eps are out. So get stuck into that too.
Fantastic. I've got absolutely nothing to add. I didn't watch a movie on the plane. I just needed my sleep, to be honest. Just like try to catch up and get back into swing of things today. So little by little, Celtic are back on the winners circuit. 2 wins under our new management team. Hopefully, there'll be a champagne supernova in 6 weeks' time when we play and beat Simurn in the League Cup final. Paul and I will be back. Don't go away. We'll be back next week as we review Celtic versus Kilmarnock. So that is the next league fixture at the weekend after a very difficult top of the table trip to play Michelin, which will not be an easy job for Martin and the boys, but we will watch nonetheless. We're definitely buoyed with a little bit more confidence than we did a week ago. I feel that hopefully we're heading the right trajectory. It's just amazing what a bit of confidence does, doesn't it, Paul?
Yeah, no, I think certainly I I didn't fancy us at all for this game against Midtjylland. I still think we'll be heavy underdogs, but there's a bit more reason to be, mildly more optimistic than was otherwise the case. So you never know. Fingers crossed we can go there and get some kind of result.
Fingers crossed. Well, we'll be back next week to cover that one, and all that's left to say until then is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.